On the night of February 19, 2026, Alysa Liu sat in the stands of the Milan ice skating arena and watched his daughter win an Olympic gold medal. He should have been the happiest man in that building. His kid had just done something no American woman had done in 24 years. The crowd was going crazy. Alysa was crying. Her coaches were crying. The whole arena felt like it was vibrating. And Alysa was crying too. But not entirely for the reasons you would think. Because the very next day, Alysa sat down with a reporter from USA Today and said something that nobody who won a gold medal the night before would expect a parent to say. In retrospect, I feel I made a mistake. Not a small mistake. Not some coaching decision that went slightly wrong. A mistake that sent his 15-year-old daughter into a spiral so deep she ended up with PTSD. A mistake she never fully told him about until it was already too late. A mistake she carried quietly while he thought she was just fine. This is that story. To understand what Alysa did, you have to understand the pressure he was operating under when he made the decision. Because he was not some careless parent who did not think about his kids. If anything, he was the opposite. Alysa Liu had 5 children. All of them his. All of them conceived through surrogacy, by himself, as a single father who decided at 40 years old that he was going to have a family on his own terms. Alysa was the oldest. Then her sister Selena. Then triplets. 5 kids, 1 dad, no partner. He was also running a full immigration law practice out of the Bay Area at the same time. And Alysa was not just a kid who liked skating. She was a once-in-a-generation talent who, by the time she was 13, had already broken records that had stood since Tara Lipinski. She was on the U.S. Olympic path. There were coaches involved, competition schedules, international programs. The machine around her was already moving fast. So when the time came to prepare for the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics, the decision that came up was this: should Alysa move to Colorado Springs? That is where the United States Olympic and Paralympic Training Center is. Where U.S. figure skating is headquartered. Where the most elite skating environment in the country exists. For a 15-year-old with an Olympic spot on the horizon, it made total sense on paper. Alysa agreed to it. He thought it was the right call. He got her set up there and then he went back home to Oakland to keep his law practice running and take care of his other 4 kids. And Alysa was alone. She was 15 years old. She was in a new city. She was at a training facility surrounded by other elite athletes she did not know well. Her dad was hours away. Her 4 siblings were hours away. The house where she had grown up sharing a room with all of them, the bunk beds, the noise, the chaos she had called family her whole life, all of it was hours away. And Alysa did not know how bad it was getting. He told USA Today, she was upset and she missed home. But then I was thinking, when I was 14, I went to boarding school. I survived. I felt like Alysa can survive this, too. But not knowing that she hated it. I did not know until she came home. That last sentence is the one that carries all the weight. He did not know. She never told him. She was 15 years old and she was suffering and she kept it inside because that is what she did. She pushed through. She trained. She flew to Beijing. She competed. She finished 6th. She smiled for the cameras. And when she came home, she was done. In April 2022, a few months after the Beijing Olympics, Alysa Liu posted a note on Instagram. No dramatic announcement. No press conference. Just a quiet post that said she was moving on with her life. She was 16 years old. She thanked the sport. She said she was only 16 and wanted to do other things. And then her social media went dark. Alysa found out the same way everyone else did. Through the Instagram post. She did not sit him down and have a conversation first. She did not tell him it was coming. She just posted it. which tells you something about the distance that had grown between them during that period in Colorado Springs and the months after. Not a distance of love. They have never stopped loving each other. But a distance of trust. A gap in communication that had quietly opened up while he was juggling 5 kids and a law practice, and she was alone in another city trying to become an Olympian. And after she posted it, Arthur found out what had really been happening inside his daughter's head during that time. Arthur told USA Today, she became really unhappy. She avoided the ice rink at all costs. She's traumatized. She was just traumatized. She was suffering from PTSD and she wouldn't go near the ice rink. PTSD. His 16-year-old daughter had developed PTSD from the experience of elite figure skating. Not from one specific event. From the accumulation of years of pressure, of giving everything to a sport from the time she was 5 years old, of being moved to a new city alone at 15, of performing at the Olympics in a country whose government had been spying on her family, of never having had a real childhood in the way that most kids understand that word. And Arthur had not known how bad it was until it was already over. Now here is where most people stop telling this story. The PTSD, the retirement, the Instagram post. But the part that came after is just as important. Maybe more. When Alysa retired, Arthur was hurt. He told CBS he was a little bit hurt by the decision, and a little bit hurt by how it was communicated. He had poured years of his life and hundreds of thousands of dollars into her skating. He had believed in her more than anyone. And she had walked away without warning. He was also, according to her coaches, not the easiest person to work with. One of her coaches, Jason DiGuglielmo, told the New York Times that Arthur would hide in the rafters at practice and text him afterward about what he saw. He sent the coach a radar gun once to measure how fast Alysa was skating because he was convinced she should be going faster. DiGuglielmo had to keep reminding him, you don't need to do this. I'm kind of really good at my job. Arthur is aware of all of this. He does not deny it. He talks about it with a kind of rueful honesty that is actually really rare from parents in elite sports. He knows he was intense. He knows he pushed hard. He knows that the way he was wired, coming from a mountain village in China with no electricity, surviving Tiananmen Square, starting over in America with nothing, building a career from zero, meant that his tolerance for difficulty was very high. When he was 14, he went to boarding school alone. He survived. He assumed his daughter would too. But Alysa was not him. And the hardest thing a parent ever has to learn is that the survival strategies that worked for them do not automatically work for their kids. For about 2 years, Alysa lived outside the rink. She enrolled at UCLA. She hung out with friends for the first time without a competition schedule controlling her calendar. She climbed to Everest Base Camp in Nepal just because she wanted to. She took road trips. She had sleepovers. She was doing regular 20-year-old things for the first time in her entire life. And she was happy. And then in early 2024, she went on a family skiing trip. And flying down the mountain, feeling that rush of speed and adrenaline, something shifted in her. She realized she missed that feeling. Not the medals. Not the titles. Not the external validation of scores and standings. The feeling of moving through space at full speed with everything on the line. She decided to come back. But she was not coming back the way she left. She was coming back on her terms, completely and totally. New coaches. New program design. She would pick her own music. Her own costumes, her own everything. And she had one more thing to handle first. She walked into Arthur's law office. He looked up. She told him she had some very important news. She wanted to skate again. He probably felt a rush of excitement right away. His daughter. His investment. His belief from the very beginning. She was coming back. And then she told him the rest of it. He was not going to be involved. He was no longer part of the team. Arthur started to cry right there in his office. He told the New York Times, "I have to be honest with you, that hurt." Think about what that moment felt like from his side. He survived one of the most violent political crackdowns in modern history. He came to America with nothing and built a life. He raised 5 children alone. He spent what ultimately may have been close to $1 million on her skating career. He sat in rafters watching practice and sent radar guns to coaches because he cared so much it overflowed into obsession. And the person he had poured all of that into sat across from him and said, "I'm doing this without you." He cried. And then he said okay. Because he understood something he had not understood back when he put her on a plane to Colorado Springs at 15. That his job as her father and his job as someone involved in her athletic career were 2 very different jobs. And confusing them had cost her something real. For Alysa to return to the sport, he said, I had to let her go. So here is what the 2026 Olympics actually looked like from Arthur Liu's perspective. He was in the stands in Milan, watching. Not in the rafters with a radar gun and a text ready to go. Just a dad in the seats. Watching. And when she landed her final jump in the free skate and the scores came up and it was clear she had won, he saw her scream those words that the whole internet has been quoting ever since. The ones we are not going to repeat here because you already know them. The ones that were completely, entirely, 100% herself. He watched that. And then he sat down with a reporter the next day and said, I made a mistake. Not because she failed. She won. She won Olympic gold. She is the first American woman to do it in 24 years. She is the most accomplished comeback story in figure skating history. He said it because he finally understood, fully and completely, what she went through to get there. Not just the beautiful part. The PTSD part. The avoided ice rinks part. The 2 years where she could not even look at the sport that had defined her entire childhood. The part where she came back and had to physically remove him from her process before she could feel safe enough to try again. He got to watch her win. And he also had to sit with the knowledge of what it cost her. Those 2 things happened at the same time, in the same stands, on the same night. There is something worth saying about Arthur Liu that gets lost when people only focus on the intensity and the mistakes. This man came from a village with no electricity. He was a 25-year-old student who stood in Tiananmen Square while the Chinese government brought in tanks. He fled his country with nothing. He worked as a busboy. He went to law school. He raised 5 children alone. He fought off foreign government spies who tried to use his daughter against him. He also pushed too hard. He left a 15-year-old girl alone in a city and assumed she would be fine because he had been fine at 14. He conflated his own resilience with hers. He got so caught up in what she could achieve that he occasionally forgot to ask how she actually felt. He is not a villain. He is not even a cautionary tale, not really. He is just a father who loved his daughter so much that it sometimes came out sideways. And when she won that gold medal, she did it with every single thing he gave her and without the parts that were holding her back. She carries his grit. His refusal to quit. His belief that the world can be more than what it looks like right now. That is all Arthur. She just figured out how to carry it her own way. And on the night of February 19, 2026, in a rink in Milan, with her dad watching from the seats instead of from the rafters, that combination turned out to be exactly enough.